1971, and he joined, actually he preached mostly in South America, Central America and Brazil, and since 1982 he has taken sannyas, and since 1987 you are became GBC member, and he is responsible for the countries in Central America, South America, Caribbeans, and Texas. So today we'll have a special presentation. Hare Krishna. Soll ich auf Deutsch nochmal sagen?
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radharamana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radharamana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radharamana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radharamana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Radharamana Hari, Govinda 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 Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radharamana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radharamana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Radharamana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Radharamana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Paramahansa Paribhashakacharya Ashtotarashata Shishimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribhashakacharya Ashtotarashata Shishimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shri Vashadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopakabina Shamakunda Radha Kund Kiri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Sama Bhatta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Jugadharma Harinam Sankirtan Ki Brihat Midanga Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi All glories to the Sama devotees All glories to the Sama devotees All glories to the Sama devotees All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. I'm very happy to be here with for the first time, with such an enthusiastic crowd of devotees, friends, inquirers, etc. And hope that by Krishna's grace I can perform some service today in helping us all take one step more toward Krishna. So today we'll recite the 11th verse of the second chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I'll just read the Sanskrit and then, is it written somewhere? Oh, okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashochanan Vashochastvam Pragyavadamscha Vashyase Asum Agatasumscha Nanushochanti Pandita Ashuchanan Vashuchastvam Pragyavadamscha Vashyase Asum Agatasumscha Nanushochanti Pandita
Shri Bhagavan Vacha Ashochan Anvashochastvam Bhagavatam Shabashase Gatasun Agatam Sumscha Manushuchanti Pandita
Shri Bhagavan Vacha Ashochanana Shochastvam Bhagavatam Shabashase Gatasunagatasumscha Manushuchanti Pandita
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Ashochananvashochastvam
Navadam Shabhasase
Pragyavadam Shabhasase
Gatasun
Agatasumscha
Anusochanti Pandita
Nanushochanti Pandita Shri Bhagavan Vacha Ashochananvashochastvam Pragyavadam Shabhasase Gatasun Agatasumscha Nanushochanti Pandita Vaishnavi
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Ashochananvashochastvam Pragyavadam Shabhasase Gatasun Agatasumscha Nanushochanti Pandita Shri Bhagavan Vacha Ashochananvashochastvam Pragyavadam Shabhasase Gatasun Agatasumscha Nanushochanti Pandita Shri Bhagavan Vacha The Supreme Personality of Godhead said Ashochan that which is not worthy of lamentation Anvashocha you are lamenting Tvam you Pragyavadhan learned talks Cha also Bhashyase speaking Gata lost Asun life Agata not past Asun life Cha also Na never Anushochanti lament Pandita the learned. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Blessed Lord said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. Everyone can please repeat. The Blessed Lord said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. Purport. The Lord at once took the position of the teacher and chastised the student, calling him indirectly a fool. The Lord said, "You are talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is the body and what is the soul, does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition." As it will be explained in later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology, but more important than religious formality. But he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul, and the supreme is even more important than religious formalities. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, he should not have posed himself as a very learned man. As he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause for lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gunam Janashalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So, in many places in Bhagavad Gita, the verse begins because Bhagavad Gita is being perceived by Sanjaya, who is sitting beside Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was a frustrated king in the sense that he could never rule over the kingdom because he was blind. Not only was he materially blind, but he was spiritually blind. He was so blind that the impending war, now right here in this part of Bhagavad Gita, or the whole Bhagavad Gita, we are on the battlefield, ready to go to battle. So, of course, nowadays, well, even maybe a few months ago, in Germany, they would say, no, we should never go to war. Now there may be a little change of heart, as to at least being ready to do so. But generally, we try to avoid war. And this was Arjuna's position. He wanted to avoid war. But Krishna was telling him, no, you must fight. So most people nowadays would side with Arjuna. No, he doesn't want war. He's more intelligent. Why, here is this warmonger God again, trying to incite some violence. No, but war and peace, actually peace, if we analyze peace, it's not a natural condition in this world. You go, we have so many things, mosquitoes, bugs, there's a saying in Srimad Bhagavatam, Jivo Jivasya Jivanam, that one living being is food for another. So this is the chain, the cyclic chain of consuming, one entity consuming another. And not only as far as eating, as far as everything. just like business. In business, everyone's trying to put the other person out of business. In politics, one leader is trying to put down another leader, and they speak so horribly about one another. They find every possible fault they can find in the other person. Exact opposite of what a spiritually minded person would do. A spiritually minded person wants to see the good in every person, wants to bring out that good. Srila Prabhupada used to say that if you see the spark of spirituality, the spark of devotion, you have to fan that spark like a fire, because it's very delicate in this world of criticism, envy. Our main literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, begins by saying, Dharma Projita Koitavatra, that this book of the highest spiritual truth is beyond all types of motivated religion. Nowadays we see so many types of motivated religion, that using religion for political means, even centuries ago, using religion as an excuse to kill thousands or millions of people. Religion can be the cause of the greatest violence in the world. And therefore, as Srila Prabhupada says here in his purport, Arjuna was speaking about religiosity on that mundane platform of politics, using religion to try to most people nowadays, they use religion as an insurance policy, just to see how I can make sure I don't go to hell, or how I can make sure that I don't have a more unfortunate situation. But that's not the purpose. The purpose of religion, if we analyze the word religion, it comes from Latin, relicare, which means to link up again. That means that it's our natural condition. Again, otherwise it would just say likare, to link up something that we've never been linked to. But because it says that, although most people have forgotten it, and many religions say, we've never existed, because they're basing their whole understanding on the body, that I'm this body. So peace is not a natural condition in this world. It's something, it's actually a divine imposition. It's something that descends from the transcendence, from the spiritual plane, and comes down upon invitation. Invitation and the exercise of trying to subdue, to subjugate the ego. Because ego, we see, when we have ego, then we're always challenging someone. We come, our egotistical view of life, that I am the most important person, whatever I want is most important. This selfishness, this, just like in Bhagavad Gita later on it explains about the three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So these three modes of nature, they dominate the living entity, just like different frequencies. Like in radio, now we have, first we had 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, different frequencies. And the more G's you have, the more potency. So also the different frequencies of nature, ignorance, passion, and goodness. How can we understand them? I sometimes give the example that if you have a beach, a nice sunny beach, Caribbean or Tahiti or some really Hawaii, some nice place like that. So a person in the mode of goodness will go to that place and they will see the expanse of the ocean and the sky, and think about something lofty, something greater. That's their feeling, enjoying that peacefulness. Someone in the mode of passion will come to the same place, same time, and they'll look and say, wow, we could build a highway here and condominiums and make a lot of money. And someone in the mode of ignorance will come with their beer and their loud music and play it, throw the beer cans everywhere, trash everywhere, and go away. So same place, but according to the frequency of nature, that frequency, and also what frequency are we tuned into? Nowadays we tend to be tuned into ignorance and passion, that we want to forget. Ignorance means forgetfulness. So why would we want to forget? That means we're not happy. We're not happy with. If one is happy in one's present condition, really happy, just like in Bhagavad Gita, further on in the 6th chapter, Krishna says, Sukham atyantikam yattad buddhi grahyam atindriya. He says that real happiness is atyantikam. It's transcendental. It's above any other kind of happiness. The happiness that generally we experience is not really happiness. Just like here, Arjuna is in difficulty, and he expresses in a couple of verses back in the 8th verse of this chapter. He says, "Nahi, I can't remember how it begins. Nahi prapashyami mama panuja yachchokam uchchoshriyam indriyanam." He says that Krishna, I can't find any way to get rid of this difficulty in my mind, this suffering. And so that suffering, he says, it's drying up my senses. Just like if we're in anxiety about something, we lose a loved one, or my husband went away, my wife went away, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, something, my child became a Hare Krishna, whatever. Actually, this happened. One of our oldest devotees in our Hare Krishna movement, he's a lawyer. And so his son studied law, like the perfect prototype. My son becoming a lawyer. He was very happy. And so his son finished school. He said, "So would you like to join my law firm?" And well, I want to take a few months just to, studying so long, so many years. He said, "Yeah, I'll decide that for the summer. I was thinking going and staying in a temple somewhere." "Oh, okay, that's nice." So then at the end of the summer, so he calls his son, so have you decided which law firm you want to work with? And he said, "Actually, I think I just want to be a brahmachari." He said, "What? Brahmachari? How will you make your living? How will you?" And he said, his father he was a temple president. So he said, "Would you have preached that way to the brahmacharis in your temple?" And he goes, "Well, no." So anyway, the point is that some difficulty will come. Something will happen. And that, Krishna speaks about this in the beginning of this chapter. He says, Vishame samtastitam, that now in this moment of crisis, kutiskwa kashmalamidam, Vishame samapastitam. He says, Arjuna, how has this contaminated consciousness overwhelmed you at this moment of crisis? So in a moment of crisis, it's an opportunity for us to connect with Krishna. That's the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's in a moment of difficulty, and so what should he do? He's much more fortunate than us because he's always with Krishna. And so he was thinking, I don't want to fight with my family. I don't want to. Very difficult crisis. I mean, compared to our crisis, I don't have enough money, or something happened. But imagine being on the battlefield and you're supposed to go kill all of your relatives. What a difficult situation. Just like, the whole world is tuned in to the situation in Ukraine. A very difficult situation. Many Ukrainian devotees are here. Ukrainian people going everywhere. This is a real crisis. But whatever the crisis in our life may be, that my new dress or my new suit, I've got a spot on it. That can be a big crisis for someone. And whatever that crisis is in our life is the biggest crisis. So Krishna chose to speak Bhagavad Gita in the most excruciating, difficult circumstance, so that we could, after reading this, we should think, well, my situation is not so bad. But the solution is to take shelter of Krishna. This was Arjuna's. So he was saying previously, my senses are drying up. Otherwise, when you have a crisis, you can't enjoy your senses, like when everything's going okay. When everything's going all right, even when we're practicing Krishna consciousness, it's relatively easy. But the difficulty comes in a moment of crisis. And so this Bhagavad Gita is preparing us for these moments. And these moments will be there. Actually, it's said about this world, padam padam yad vipadam natesham. At every step, there is a difficulty. Every step. And you're always finding some difficulty. Just like this body. Rupa Goswami, the leader in our line of devotees, Krishna devotees, he says that kamadina katina katita palita durnidesha. He says that I have become a slave to my senses because I'm living on the bodily platform. And this is why Krishna is telling Arjuna, now, why are you lamenting? You're lamenting for this material body. So it says in this verse, a wise person doesn't lament for the living or the dead. And actually, Krishna is saying that this body is always dead. It's a dead matter. We just happen to be living in it. Just like someone gets into their car and they drive. So the car is animated, but the car is always the same. It's the same metal and plastic and whatever materials that are there. It's always the same. But when we're in it, it looks different. And so when we're within this body, it seems to be alive, but it's not alive. It's dead matter. Just like if you're, we've all had this experience. If you sleep in the wrong way, then you cut off the blood to your arm or something. You can't feel the arm. And then you realize this is just dead matter. If somebody came at that moment and cut off your arm, you wouldn't feel it. But if they cut off your arm in another moment, you would definitely feel it. So this is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. What are you lamenting for? Just a piece of matter. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that this body, kunupe tridaruke, it's just a bag. This is kind of real basic analysis. It's like a bag with 3 elements in it. It's like we nowadays, psychologically speaking, people who do business, they know that it doesn't matter what you have. If you put a nice wrapper on it, if you put a nice presentation, people will buy it. I mean, nice colors, and put some, something tropical, something looks really healthy, and people will buy it. And then you figure out it's not exactly what it's supposed to be. Or you open it up and it's half empty. I see that now packaging. You get a big can of protein powder or something, then you open it up and it's half empty. So this is the presentation. So the presentation of the body, it may look nice. Some look better than others, and some of them aren't so nice because of our karma. We have like a not so nice body, but we all live with it, and after a while you get used to it, and then you get to attach to it, and then when you have to give it up, then it becomes a very lamentable situation. We don't want to give it up. So therefore Krishna is saying, what are you lamenting for? Because if you realize who you are, you're a spiritual entity, and therefore Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that Arjuna is just speaking some mundane religiosity, from a dharma. There's things called dharma shastras or scriptures that speak about how to function within this world. So they have their place, but it's not the highest knowledge. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, as Srila Prabhupada says in the beginning, that Arjuna, you're a fool. And this is actually the first level of consciousness that we need to be able to understand the absolute truth. We have to understand that I'm in a very foolish position, being attached to this body, being attached to this world, full of wars and plague and diseases and bacteria, just like this whole COVID. Everybody running around with masks on, and you have to put alcohol on your hands every 10 minutes. And, some people believe it, some people really think it's a hoax, whatever. Point is that we're always living in fear. Just like if you look at the birds, the birds always like they're eating something and they eat again. Okay. And so this is the condition of the living entity in this world, always fearful. And how can we get away from this fear and be happy? Because as long as we're fearful, just like one devotee who recently, very wonderful devotee, left his body a few months ago, maybe a month ago, Madhusudan Prabhu. So he was telling us that when he first learned about Krishna consciousness, he went to speak to his parents, who weren't very favorable, and he said, aren't you afraid of death? And his mother said, no, I'm not afraid of death. So he went to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, my mother says she's not afraid of death. And Prabhupada says, so many people may say that, but if you're actually not afraid of death, then you have absolutely no anxiety. And of course, in our scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains what is anxiety. Bhayam dvitiya viniveshata syat. That bhaya, or fear, or anxiety, what is the cause of it? Dvitiya. We're putting all of our attention, all of our energy into the secondary cause. Dvitiya vinivesha. The secondary cause, what is that? Maya, illusion, material energy. We're investing our whole life. Just like if I told any of you, I have a wonderful business proposition that I want you to invest all of your money in this business, and I guarantee you it will fail. Would you invest? You fail. Guarantee you'll lose everything. But please invest. But this is like material life. We invest in having a nice home, family, friends, community, etc. But it will all be lost. We spend this time. There's a poem by one of our great spiritual masters, Acharyas, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He says, beautiful poem, and he says, actually I'm combining two poems, but it's kind of, they go together. So he says, I was in the womb, and of course in Srimad Bhagavatam it says after 7 months you become conscious in the womb. That's when, you start kicking, trying to get out. And the mother's thinking, oh, isn't this nice? No, but it's not so nice. The baby's in there kicking, stuck in this bag. And then consciousness comes. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur said, then I realized this suffering condition and I prayed to the Lord that please, this time, he could remember his past life. Sometimes when we're in that condition, we can remember our past lives. And he said that I'm stuck in this spot. Please, my Lord, this time I will be very good. I will just only engage in self-realization, spirituality. Just please save me from this suffering condition. But then he comes out of the womb. And, of course, in the beginning it's suffering, but then everybody says, all my family members were there. Isn't he nice? Isn't he sweet? And then he grew up, had a nice childhood, good education, got married to a nice wife, had a nice family, became successful. But then, later on in old age, all of a sudden he saw someone sitting before him, laughing, very furiously, laughing. He said, who are you? I'm death personified. Why are you laughing? Because I've always been here, but you never saw me. I've always been here telling you that I am your future. Especially the way you're living your life, absorbed in all these material things. I am your future. You have no other future. And then he had a vision. And he saw this big slab of stone. And on top of it was laying his body. And he saw there was a great celebration. What are they celebrating? Well, who is attending this great festival? Jackals, vultures, and worms, and other creatures. And what was the celebration? They're eating my body. So he's thinking, my whole life, everything I ever did, everything I sacrificed was just to put on this festival. The festival of worms. So we shouldn't, use our life in that way. Just to die without any real understanding of the purpose of life. So therefore, Krishna is telling Arjuna that you should really understand that you are not this body. So this is the beginning. This verse is the beginning of the teachings of Krishna. Before that, Arjuna had Krishna as a friend. So sometimes also before we come to a mature spiritual understanding, we have this different conceptions of God which are not realistic. That God is there, watching over us as if he had nothing better to do, that, watch all of us, and who needs a car, who needs a house, you did this wrong, you're going to suffer. And being basically unfair because some people suffer all their life. Some people are born with defects. So where's the justice? If we don't understand that we have taken one body after another, there's no justification. John, actually one of the most intelligent people in this world, who came from Germany, Einstein, he gave up the personal conception of God because he thought, how can God be so cruel to allow the Holocaust? How could he be so cruel? So and he read Bhagavad Gita, and we're reading Bhagavad Gita, but we're coming to a different conclusion. We're coming to the conclusion that everything is perfect. Just like later on in the 4th chapter, Krishna says that Amavartmanu Vartante. Everyone is following my path. But there's two paths. One is the path of following these wonderful, beautiful teachings of Bhagavad Gita and going back home, back to Godhead, following the Lord's instruction. And the other path is we follow the Lord's illusory energy. Everyone's following. Everyone must follow. Because as minute spiritual entities, we have to take shelter of something. We're not so powerful. Although we think, this is the illusion, we think I'm so powerful, I'm so great, I'm so capable, I'm so intelligent. And even if we're not very intelligent, just like Srila Prabhupada here is saying, Arjuna is not very intelligent. And he could understand Bhagavad Gita in a half an hour. And he wasn't, like so intelligent. So what are we? I've been trying to understand Bhagavad Gita for the last 40-some years. And still, every time I read it, it's like some new revelation. So what to speak of, and Arjuna could understand it in a half an hour. And he surrendered to Krishna. He was already surrendered to Krishna. But with this, of course, in our case, an illusory conception of God. That God just is there for me. That's his purpose. So this is called Ishara Petasya Viparyo Ashmiti. That when we're in anxiety, when we're living in fear, when we have faith in the external energy, then our position becomes reversed. That I think that I'm the focal point, and God is he's focused on me and everybody else, but mostly me. So this egocentric. So I was explaining about the modes of nature. The most egocentric position under these modes of nature is called in the mode of ignorance, animalistic. If you watch an animal, they're totally focused on their senses and eating and sleeping, and even if you throw some food between two dogs. I saw this happen once actually. My friend of mine, when I was young, he had a dog, and the mother and the cub, like the mother and son. But they threw some food. They were fighting over the food. So concentrated ego. Then we go to the mode of passion. The ego gets extended out. My family, my friends, my community, my country. I'm so proud of this country. And then in the mode of goodness, we extend it out more. Humanity, or we even think about the animals. But Krishna consciousness means that we extend consciousness. This is, at the end of this chapter, this is spoken about. That when one is spiritually advanced, then the consciousness becomes like an ocean. Just like the ocean, the comparison is given. So many rivers are coming into the ocean, but the ocean is not disturbed by the rivers. It doesn't fill up, it doesn't change. So when our consciousness actually reaches Krishna, our consciousness, that's why we call it Krishna consciousness. It's so great that nothing can disturb us. And this is what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna here. That you have to become humble, and you have to accept the intervention, my intervention, Krishna is saying. So Sanjaya was saying that Sri Bhagavan, Srila Prabhupada said many times that when you say Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, it really means there's no option. Krishna is speaking. He is the supreme controller of everything. There's no option. You must take this. Sanjaya is saying that to convince us that this is not some opinion, some idea, although Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he says, this is my opinion. But his opinion is not really an opinion. It is, but he's giving us some good advice. But he's always in control. And what he's telling us to do, we must do if we want this result. If we want the result of being happy, of going back home, back to Godhead, of getting out of the cycle of birth and death, if we want that result, then we have to take Krishna consciousness. So this is what Krishna is saying here. And then Arjuna, before, he has already admitted that even if I had a kingdom without any rival, with the supremacy of the demigod, even if I had that, I wouldn't be happy. So he's already admitted that if I try to follow my mind or my idea or my conception, there's no hope. But still, sometimes we feel that way. This is what our Param Guru or Prati Param Guru, depending on who you are, Prati Vipati Param Guru in some cases, meaning Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He said that there's the only hope is Krishna. It's the only hope, and if we don't follow this Bhagavad Gita, and we don't follow these sublime teachings, and we don't understand that the vehicle that this knowledge becomes accessible to us is the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. This allows the holy name. Krishna actually allows us to understand him. It's not that we can understand Krishna by our limited intelligence. Our limited intelligence can't reach Krishna. You can't ascend to Krishna. Krishna descends. So the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna descending to us. And because the Bhagavad Gita is so deep that even Einstein couldn't understand it, then he comes in the form of the holy name, which is very easy to perform. And by chanting this holy name, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the desire to serve Krishna becomes solidified in our consciousness, in our mind, in our lives. And then it all becomes real. So to understand and to become fixed in Krishna consciousness, what do we have to do? Just what we're doing now. But we do it every day, not just Sunday, or not just one part of the day, but every part of the day. We see this later on in this chapter. Krishna calls this Yoga Kaushalam, the art of yoga. The art of yoga means we understand how to connect everything that I'm doing, every action, every thought, and every word, we connect it to Krishna. This is the science of Krishna consciousness. And if you can do that, because it's not so difficult to do. It's only difficult because we're so conditioned to living in this world and being controlled by the energies, the external energy, and by different conceptions that we've been carrying from one body to another, from one body to another. And the tendency that has been instilled or inculcated within us to just figure out the best way to eat, the best way to sleep, the best way to defend, the best way to live our social lives. This is like, it absorbs our whole day. Just trying to figure out how to navigate this material energy. So Krishna has come. Sometimes people ask me, how can I connect with Krishna? Here it is. One time, Srila Prabhupada, one man was insisting, can you show me God? And Prabhupada said, you do not have the qualification. Yes, I can show you God, but you have no qualification. And Prabhupada said, just like a professor, he may know some mathematics or some science, but if some 10-year-old child comes and says, can you explain this to me? No. It's there, but you're not ready. So Prabhupada said again and again, he said, no, if you're speaking the truth, you must show me God. So Prabhupada was a little flustered at this man. So he said, yes, here is God. So will you take him? He took Bhagavad Gita and said, here is God. So here's Krishna speaking. And just like if we saw Krishna, Srila Prabhupada said, and I'll conclude with this, he said that we shouldn't be trying to see Krishna like an entertainer. No, I want to have a vision of Krishna playing his flute. No, Krishna's not, doesn't come to give us a flute concert, or to give us dance lessons. But he does that, and he will do that for us. He wants to play his flute so that we can hear it. He wants to dance so that we can enjoy. But right now, we should learn to dance to please Krishna. We should learn to sing and dance and chant and act in such a way that it pleases Krishna. And then Krishna will be induced by our love, by our devotion, to interact with us. Krishna says that to whatever degree you surrender to me, in that same proportion I will reciprocate. But there's something very wonderful in that formula. If I give 99% to Krishna, he will give 99% to me. But if I give 100%, Krishna gives unlimited. I can't go beyond 100%, but Krishna can go unlimited. So we're actually, in that formula, we are the winners. Of course, Krishna is always the winner, but we win because we can only give this much. Just like a glass of water compared to the ocean. Once the glass is full, you can't fill it anymore. So we can only give that much. But when we reach that maximum effort from our part, then Krishna gives us unlimited. And of course, there's a story, I won't tell it now, many of you know it, of Sudam Brahman. He gave what he could, and Krishna gave him unlimited. But then actually Krishna was feeling that actually my devotee has defeated me, because he gave me more than he had. He had nothing, so he borrowed some rice. So he gave me more than he had, and I can't give more than I have because I have everything. So therefore he has defeated me. So this is, Krishna wants to be defeated by his devotee. But we don't take that position. Let me defeat Krishna. No. Let me please Krishna. And then Krishna will gladly be defeated by our love. See, that's what he wants. And so, if we take Bhagavad Gita seriously, we take the chanting of the holy name very seriously, then we can't even imagine what Krishna can give us, what he wants to give us. And what can we give him? Just like Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna doesn't need your burnt chapatis. And even if you're expert at making chapatis, Srimati Radharani can make it better. Whatever you can do, she can do it millions of times better. So the thing that Krishna is looking for in our offering is that we give ourselves fully to him, and then he can reciprocate. So these are some thoughts on this verse and on Bhagavad Gita. I'll stop here. Are there any questions, any comments? Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj. Yes.
I think about why have plenty people in the world anxieties to pray to God and to believe God. I cannot understand why people have fear to give themselves to God, to Krishna.
Why they have fear?
Yeah.
It's not so much fear. Of course, some people may be afraid because we're so attached to what we have that we're thinking, if I surrender to God, I'll have to give it up. Otherwise, it's foolish. It's foolish, like you say. You can't understand. From a logical point of view, it doesn't make any sense. If I surrender, if I have a fear of surrendering to God, he comes back to the dog. But now the dog is so happy with his this new child. He's playing with him. So Narada Muni speaks to the dog in dog language because Narada Muni knows that. He says, so now you want to go back home, back to Godhead? And the dog ignores him. He said, you foolish dog. You had opportunity one time after another, and the dog goes, starts growling at Narada Muni. So the dog is cursed because he's offending a Vaishnava, and he comes back as a snake. So the snake is, so Narada Muni is so merciful, he comes back to the snake, and the snake is being beaten by children. The snake is like, because the snake has the consciousness, he understands, he has some understanding. And so the snake says, yeah, now I'm ready. No, now I'm ready. And Narada Muni says, now you will have to wait out this lifetime. He says, but these children are beating me. And so Narada Muni said, well, just show your fangs. No, don't bite them, just show your fangs. Then they will leave you alone. And so the snake, okay, fine. So that's why. We get attached to something, and we have this opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. We think, my husband, my wife, my child, my this, my that. And that's why we're afraid to give up these things. Any other question or comment? Yes.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for
Thank you.
very nice class. In this verse, there is Lord Krishna is saying to Arjuna that don't lament what is past and what is future. What about the body? Because indeed, the body is inducing suffering, and this cannot be ignored or neglected because it's kind of worrying when we also do our services with the challenges. How do we look into that? This is one question, Maharaj.
Well, yes, if we can see the body as Krishna's property, as he said, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, everything belongs to me. So it's fine to take care of the body. You should take care of the body. But we should take care of the body thinking, this is Krishna. It's just like, we have paraphernalia here for the altar. We clean it and make it very nice for Krishna's pleasure. We clean the altar for Krishna's pleasure. We clean the temple for Krishna's pleasure. So if we take care of the body for Krishna's pleasure, then it won't be our attachment to the body, it will be our attachment to serving Krishna. But if we just take care of the body because I think I'm this body, just like one time Srila Prabhupada asked devotees, why are we so attached to this body? And why do we love this body? Why do we love ourselves? And one devotee said, Maya, Prabhupada, Maya. No. Prabhupada said, no. And different answers. Nobody. And then finally Prabhupada said, we love ourselves because we love Krishna. And because we are part of Krishna, therefore we love ourselves. But we're loving ourselves in the wrong way. So if we love this body because I think it's mine, that's illusion. But if I care for this body because I love Krishna, then the body, that care for the body becomes devotional service. But if I care for the body because it's my source of pleasure, then it becomes mine. So everything in our life, our duty to family, friend, whatever, as soon as we make it part of our Krishna consciousness, then that very thing, just like it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that if you eat too much of one substance, especially speaking about milk, if you take too much milk, then it will make you sick. But if you take milk converted into something else, like curd, then you can cure that. The same substance becomes the cure. So that same body that I was attached to and was drowning me in illusion now becomes my saving grace.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And another question, Maharaj, regarding the lamenting for people. I mean, Krishna is saying to Arjuna, don't lament if you have to kill your relatives and close ones. Shouldn't we lament if our close associates are leaving, because we have so much association, connection and memories, everything, and if so and so person is leaving, shouldn't we feel sad for losing such association? In the case of devotees, we authorize such lamentation, but for non-devotees, why shouldn't we do that?
Well, we should lament that I'm not, just like Lord Chaitanya. He was lamenting, he was saying that to Swarup Damodar, that my biggest lamentation is that I'm breathing. And so Swarup Damodar was trying to understand. He said, yes, because if I love Krishna, I would not be breathing. I would not be staying in this world. I would be going back home, back to Godhead. But the fact that I'm breathing means that all of this apparent devotion that I have is just a show. It's just a big theater. But actually, I'm simply attached to this world. Therefore, I maintain myself within this world. So, of course, this was Lord Chaitanya's ecstasy. But he was giving us a lesson that, if I'm attached to this body and I'm attached to this world, and then it will be the cause of lamentation. So we try to help people not lament. The whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to give up this lamentation. Just like we see cruel things, again, Ukraine situation, people suffering. That devotee, Kripam Budhir Paraduka Dukhi, a devotee suffers in seeing others suffering. But we don't just suffer because they're suffering. We suffer because they're in ignorance. And they're thinking that this situation that I'm suffering from, if I can solve that situation, then I'll be happy. So that's what we call happiness. It means temporarily, somehow or another, placating a difficulty. Stopping a difficulty, and that's what we call happiness. So that should be our lamentation. That I don't understand what real happiness is.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
I think I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So, is it possible in this material world, in this time, we are living, doing services, cooking, distributing books, and what we can, is it really possible to be absolutely detached. And that means to, to experience the spiritual world.
Yes, that's what we're here for. Just sometimes it takes a few hundred births, but we're so fortunate we have the mercy of Lord Chaitanya that we can do it in one birth. Srila Prabhupada said that. Generally speaking, in Shastra it says that once you take up devotional service, it will take minimum 3 births to go back home, back to Godhead. That's what it says in the Puranas. But Prabhupada said, if we dedicate ourselves to devotional service, we can go back home, back to God. But even if somehow or another we don't do it, our future, by dedicating ourselves to devotional service, will be so wonderful that whatever the future condition will be, it will be so much greater than anything we've experienced. So as long as the devotee tries their hardest to serve Krishna, then the future is only positive, it's only beautiful, it's only Krishna conscious.
In the heart, to serve in the heart, you said. To serve in the heart, you said, yes?
Yes, the heart, but the heart has to be purified. We have a lot of faith in our heart. Everybody does. My heart's telling me this. My heart's telling me this is the love of my life. Our heart tells us so many things, but Cetodarpanamarjanam, Bhavamahadvarnirivapanam, we have to purify the heart. And purifying the heart, because Chitta means consciousness, and it also means the heart. So the heart is purified by purifying the mind, and the mind is purified by purifying the intelligence, and the intelligence is purified by giving up the false ego, all these identifications, man, woman, German, American, Russian, Ukrainian, give up all these designations. Then the intelligence becomes purified, the mind becomes purified, and the heart becomes purified. Yes?
That's a very nice explanation to Srimad Bhagavad. I'm very much interested to know, because we are living in a materialistic world, and as the Gita itself says that Mahapalishu Kadacha, Karmane Vadika, Mahapalishu Kadacha. So it means like the duty of ourselves is to do the work, and we should not wait for the end result. But if we are living in a materialistic world, we are in love, we are in family, we are surrounded by the internet with like more and more monetary gains. How we can make a balance with the spirituality? Because sometimes we didn't get what we want in our life. I'm asking this because I'm coming after 11 years for the first time in temple, so that's why it's my question.
Well, there's a famous verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Devarshi Bhutapanrinam Pitrinam Nayamrini Rajan, that we have so many debts to the devas, to the rishis, to the general population, to our relatives, to humanity, to our forefathers. But all of that is immediately accomplished. All of that is accomplished just by surrendering to Krishna. Otherwise, our duty to this world, our duty to, it's all, and everything is included within that service to Krishna. So we will do our same work for this world, for our family, for our friends. But because we're doing it, seeing everything as part of Krishna, then it becomes purified. So it's not that we, by serving Krishna, we're giving up some other duty. We're simply including everything. So Krishna says, Sarvanamam Parityajam Mamikam Sharanam Raja. You should give up all duties. But what he's saying, give up, means give up the idea that they are separate from Krishna. And then, so as Srila Prabhupada said many times, Krishna consciousness doesn't mean that we're giving up something. It just means that we're including it in our service to Krishna. Yes.
Maharaj, then how do we balance the Varnashrama Dharma and Bhagavad Dharma? Because the one that you have just said is the topmost, to leave everything and wholly dedicate to Krishna consciousness, whereas the Varnashrama Dharma also is giving a step approach for people who are in the beginning to follow the Brahmacharya or Grihastha or Prasad, taking the support of such system which has the rituals to offer, to follow the sanskaras, and whereas the Bhagavad Dharma is totally saying, okay, forget about that, I am the topmost, you serve me. So Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita everything, and how to select what is suitable for me.
Krishna is not telling us to give up any prescribed duty. Krishna is telling us to see that prescribed duty as part of service to Him. To see it that way and to do it that way with that consciousness. That's all. So Bhagavad Dharma includes everything else. It includes everything. It's not that there's Bhagavad Dharma as there's so many dharmas, Sri Dharma, Kula Dharma, but they're all included in Krishna consciousness. So giving them up means offering them to Krishna. Just like Prithu Maharaj, he gave up his body by meditation, giving back the earth within the body to the earth, giving back the fire to the fire. But it wasn't like he was taking earth out of his body, and it was a meditation to understand that all of these elements that are here within this body, I'm offering them to Krishna at the time of death. So it was a meditation. Not like he separated the earth out of his body and put it back into the earth, and he took out the fire and put it into the fire. But it's a meditation. A yogi can actually do that. They can dissolve their spiritual body. Generally it's done by the body just catches on fire by yogic meditation, and they leave the body through the Ramarandra. So it's no, Krishna says again and again, there's only one Dharma, which is Bhagavad Dharma, or dedicating ourselves to serving Krishna. But, Krishna doesn't need any of our services. And therefore he's saying, whatever you're doing, just do it for me. Yat karosi arashnasi, yat johosi darasiya, yat tapasyasti konteya, tat kurushva marapana. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give away, whatever sacrifices you perform, whatever austerities you do, just do them as a service to me, as an offering to me. So it's getting late and probably everyone's getting hungry. I think we'll stop here. If anybody else has a question, I can try to answer it. And thank you all very much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jai Gaura Premanandi. Don't say that.
His Holiness Guru Prasad Maharaj ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada. Yeah.
Okay, thank you all. Maharaj will be staying with us another 2 days, so you're also welcome to visit the temple and ask him further question. On Tuesday morning, he'll be giving Srimad Bhagavatam lecture. Tuesday morning. Am Dienstagmorgen, gibt einen Vortrag auf Englisch ab. Und da ihr seid willkommen, besuchen und weitere Fragestellungen.